Well, welcome. Good to see you. I guess the first order of business, this will be my last opportunity to meet with you guys. But I've enjoyed it, and thank you for your participation. New director should be coming on the first week of June. So I don't know what will be done in May, but we'll see how that plays out. I've got a couple things for you. I got a handout. We got some minutes and stuff. So why don't we pass that around? Take one and shoot it.
Well, this is the thing.
There you go.
Right?
Oh, you got one all right?
Do I sign this over, sir?
No, I didn't do anything. That's so appointed.
I was on the agenda, it was tabled, there was some discussion behind the scenes, so I wasn't. You have one? I'll take one, just for that. But no, I'm not.
I think you could just sign it.
I can sign it, yeah.
Other than your.
And I guess the first order of business is to call the meeting to order. And we've got the roll call, we've got the list going around, so we won't have to do a roll call. You should have the minutes. Did the minutes get sent to you before today?
Yes.
That's what I thought. So can I ask for somebody to either make a motion to approve the minutes in a second, and then if there's any questions or any changes anybody wants to make?
I'll take it.
Second?
Approved.
I'll give you a second if you want to glance through them, because I know you've looked at them in detail before you got here.
We actually get together on like 2 hours before, sit down.
Any adjustments to the minutes or corrections? Then I'll entertain a vote. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. So we got the meeting started. Why don't we have our newest guest introduce himself?
My name is Manfredo M. Salinas. I grew up with los Equis, the Lomas around there when I was young. Went to Buenos Aires Elementary School, junior high, Lamar, Nixon, high school, Nixon. And then I worked more than 20 years with the Union Pacific Railroad. Usually I was out of town. I was construction, heavy construction build. We build railroad bridges. And well, I lived here all my life, coming to get out. Yeah, well, grew up on Santo Niño, used to connect to that. I was reading at Minutes Rec. There's some now still connected with that fact and most of them were done was over there in Santo Niño and Chacon. On that district more and where I lived at too, but then copper tubing was kind of expensive, that's why they used to connect with that. Most of them are the old houses. Either people are some of the old, they don't want to, now the plumbers charge like a heart doctor. They charge a lot of money to, they take advantage of the old people anyway. For their programs, they could help them right to put their copper tubing at least, to their houses. But from that it comes out, to repair the houses. The reason I ran for city council against Rick Garza and Lori Loca and what's the other? Yeah, there were 5 of us, right? For that, because I've seen, there are other things that once they get in there, they forget about their agenda, what they want to do, right? So I told Rick to put me in a committee, at least in one committee of this, so he chose me for utilities. So I'm here to do, whatever help I can.
It's great to have you, and we'll pick your brain a little bit. Thank you. Guys, I'm going to go through an agenda, but as you know, I'm really interested in any insights you have for us from out and about, but I do have some formal stuff for you. And so I got a little pack, you have a little packet in front of you, and I'll kind of walk through that. And as I typically do, I did make a presentation to City Council last week, so those items that I talked to them about are in this packet too. So.
Really?
Because I know you don't like to stay up till sometimes late at night to see.
I saw some of the presentation, but if you made a second one, that was past my bedtime.
Then we say they're gonna come back, and then they never call them back, after that 3-hour legislative break.
Ange, which button do I push?
You know
Oh,
what?
I
Your
gotta
mouse.
use this?
No, no, the mouse.
Oh, I gotta use the mouse?
Is it on?
Seems to be.
Oops.
So what do you want me to do here?
Just click it. You should just be able to hit the.
Just hit
button.
this?
There you go.
All right. Council had asked, you know, we were having some, there's some issue with some high bills and stuff and adjustments and those kind of things. So I did an exhibit and sent them some information. Part of the reason as you can see up from this exhibit and from the one they saw, we've got over 1,800 customers that owe over $300. And quite frankly, part of that, a major part of that is we've had some shut-off moratoriums due to different times during the last few years. So what's going on is we're actually dedicating the resources now to get back into utility shut-offs, which will hopefully just not end up in shut-offs, but end up in recovery of payments. So that's happening, and I wanted to make sure they were up to speed on what's going on, because as you guys know, the councilman get calls from time to time. But the latest, we had the boil order and the credit, there was actually a period there of 3 months where we didn't do any, and so we've got a backlog, and we're gonna start catching up on them. The other thing I wanted to make sure they were aware of is we've been pretty busy the last 40-some days. We've actually filed for a multitude of support, and I'll talk to each one of those because one's in regard to lead and copper and some other stuff. But here's what's been going on in the water department. As you know, I'm sure you all heard that Congressman Cuellar got us $20 million through the Army Corps of Engineers. That's the top item there. That's a cost share. We're gonna put $6 million in, we're gonna spend $26 million. They're gonna contribute 20. The second one down is we're in the process of changing out our meters, which is gonna be a big thing for us in efficiency and accuracy of readings and getting information to customers timely, which should help with leaks and those kind of things. So we've applied for that. We also applied for another booster station and an elevated storage tank in South Laredo. Those went in as a result of our trip to Austin. Okay, and then since then, we have now applied for, as you can see, for PFAS. That's actually not spelled right. The other S should be capitalized, but the point is there's these emerging contaminants that you've been reading about, the forever chemicals from Teflon and those kind of things. So what we want to do is get ahead of the curve, and we've asked for some money, which we think we're going to get. This could have been applied for last year. We missed it, but we caught it this year in the window. And what that'll do is allow us to do some testing and see what's in our water. And then we'll have to have a plan to address it going forward, if need be. Now, those should be grants, by the way. And then the last line item gets into the lead and copper that we were talking about. And this is exciting because it's $43 million. But the money that we're going to get from that, here's how we plan on using it. I told you, I think last meeting, that we are in compliance for lead and copper reporting. We had to do an inventory by October 15th of last year. We were out of compliance, but we're now in compliance because we got it in by year end. But what we did was, when we did that, there was a methodology that allows you there's several methodologies that are accepted to do the inventory. We chose the one that anything built after 1989 is assumed to be non-lead or galvanized, and anything prior is assumed to be unknown, okay? So we've got 37,000 unknowns. Well, as you can imagine, we'd like to refine that universe down to what really is lead, or galvanized, because that'll certainly impact what we have to plan for. So we plan on using some of this money to actually do a more sophisticated investigation of what is lead and galvanized and what isn't. My hope is almost, I think I can almost guarantee this, that 37,000 will shrink down. However, the exciting part of this is, this money can also be used to replace the service line on the customer's property. That is a big deal. Because when you start replacing lead and copper, there's a lot of research out now that says if you replace the utility piece, remember, when you're talking about service lines, you have a water main, you have the line that's in the right of way or at to the property line, and then you have the customer portion. So a service line has a utility portion and a customer portion. If you replace half of it, that's really not solving the issue. So by having funds available to help people that replace the part that the city doesn't own and isn't responsible for, to me is a very, very important opportunity for this community. So that's why I'm excited about that request. Now, there's no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, once you're done.
Well, there's no guarantee we're gonna get all this money, but I think there's a high probability.
Where do you think the location for that storage tank and booster station in South Florida would be?
Still under design.
No, but area 59, Pita
I
Marana.
think he has it around the
Magana
Plato
Heights.
Vientos area, potentially. Or Subiza, like.
Behind Chula Vista.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because that Loop 20 on the other side, that's the future development now that's gonna happen on the east side of Loop 20. There's already ready for construction on that side.
Well, I know there's been different options discussed, I don't know, also like the sports complex area, but they also have to look at the elevations. So,
No, it was just a thing about.
Let me finish that thought.
Sure.
We have, or we had prepared for us a hydraulic model. Unfortunately, we really haven't put that into use, but we're going to, okay?
No, this is good news that.
And that will tell us exactly where everything should be and the sizing of pipe. And so going forward, all projects should go through the model and should be predicted and then verified. And then after we install them, we'll then go back and test to make sure we're getting the flows and the pressures that the model's telling us. And that's how you keep the model in balance. So we're gonna step up to that because that's the modern way to do the stuff we're doing.
Of these funding requests, I know you said the 20 million has already been given, right? Were there any
not
other ones?
received, it's in the process.
Throughout the process, but it's been
It's been awarded.
awarded per se.
We're gonna get it.
Yeah. So out of the other ones, you said they're all grants that we applied for. Have we received notification on any of the other ones? It's
No,
kind of a
that's what I said,
guarantee.
there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
The 37, the 26, well, let's do it this way. There's 22 million of grant money up on that board. The rest is low interest loans, some loan forgiveness combinations, right? And of the ones that are on that board, the top one is the one that basically is guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's been allocated, we're going through the process of working with the Army Corps of getting the projects going. The others will all be subject to approval by the Texas Water Development Board for awards,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you.
We've submitted PIPs, and now, once they rank them, then they'll come back and say whether they'll ask you to apply.
That's good, they were doing all this paperwork.
Yeah, I mean, you've gotta apply to know if you're gonna
Yeah.
get
Well,
it. That's step number one.
It's important because there's deadlines.
Yeah.
We had to meet an April deadline or we're out of the loop for another year.
Correct.
That's why this is important. We're in the
Absolutely.
game. And by the way, when we were in Austin, we were very much encouraged to get aggressive on this stuff. Because I think the state wants to help Laredo, but we have to apply.
You gotta do your part.
We've got to do our part. So our part's done.
And who in the team is checking all this to make sure we're on deadlines, who's researching?
I submit the 37 and the
No,
26.
let's say, who's getting all that information, like, say, once Walter did, who's part of the team that's checking what's coming up, making sure that we apply and we don't miss?
Well, my hope is that you'll make a smooth handoff to the new director, and that person with Angie's help. And one thing maybe is a little bit different these days is everybody on my staff knows what's going on, okay? And some of them are affected. For example, Adrian Goss has been handling the lead. He got us in compliance. He was involved in making that application, so he's fluent in where it's at, what needs to be done. And of course, our Ardura is working on the design for the booster station and elevated tank, so that's, that's in good hands.
So, but in the future grants, who's gonna be checking?
I've always been in charge of it.
Okay, yeah, so good job, thanks.
Okay? So,
But I have a question.
go ahead. You want me to
That
back up?
bond, no, not on that. That bond that they're pushing, are we gonna, was water and wastewater, that's all police and fire?
Yeah, that is a general.
That's what I was gonna actually say, yeah.
So say the bottom
We'll talk
utilities,
about that.
There's nothing for water.
yeah, because
It's
we already
police, fire,
have,
health.
so we already have our.
We're not gonna vote for it, I'm telling you right now. If they won't, this, like I'm saying, those guys are gonna bankrupt Laredo, man. I mean, but I know the utilities, right? But I didn't see nothing about water and all that.
Yeah, that's for general funds.
Yeah, general fund.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we see it in the bottom note, you guys are getting that.
Well, because we're an enterprise.
No, I know, but it's there, like, it's just.
Because I think one of the questions in the town hall meetings has been, how much is it for water?
Yeah.
We run totally independent of the general fund, and we do our own rate study, which obviously, we have
But
that.
we still pay them for services, right? That's the thing that kills, it's like we're still paying them money.
We need more guns.
Yes, we do pay them.
Yeah, for stuff that I think it's, yeah.
Moving right along.
All right. We'll get out of the utilities.
The next exhibit is again something I showed council, and you probably you couldn't see it during the presentation. I'm talking about this exhibit.
Okay, yeah.
Okay? Because there was some discussion about adjustments, and those are the numbers. And what I did was take the first 6 months, I think first 5 months of last fiscal year, and the first 5 months of this fiscal year. So that's the amount of money that our billing, or our collection group has adjusted of residents' bills based on our adjustment policy. Okay? And so you can parlay that out, that's 5 out of 12 months. So you can kind of get a handle on what kind of work we're doing.
One question is, and this was before you here, Angie comes with a budget, right? And I'm sure the city answers this question, says, hey, this is what we need, not because, no, we know because of all these things that we have. You know, we said we need 2.5, and they're like, all we could do is 1.5. But she has all the factors for the reason to keep, because water is the main source of how we're gonna handle that coming around. Is there something that we discussed on that? Because it starts when you come down to a budget, she has the proof of all the things that need to be fixed, and then the city tells you, well, we cannot give you what you need.
Well, let me ask.
But that was, I'm saying, it was before him.
Well, but let me tell you a little bit the way it's worked for utilities. We don't necessarily ask general fund, can we get permission to buy stuff, because as long as we can sustain it within our own revenues and expenses, it's pretty much a given, right? What we do have to present is a balanced budget, right? So as long as my revenues can sustain my expenses, then I'm good.
I think he's talking about the amount of a rate increase.
Is that right?
No, I'm sorry, no.
He's talking about the budget.
Yeah, one time, yeah, but no, that was a question because one time we discussed the budget and you had a hard time getting approved. See, that's why I'm asking the question, so I could keep learning on that, because you ask for a certain amount of money and they tell you, well, you only can use this amount of money, so I was just wondering if you knew something about that. So we go again for your request, or when you talk about the budget, it was brought up here, and I'm still in my head, it's like, hey, this is proof what we
Well, I
need.
think we were talking about the rates.
Okay,
We were talking about rates.
That's what I think.
Not budget, because
Okay.
just, so tonight, we're going through a rate study right now. And we will come back and say, this is what the rate study tells us based on the needs of the department. And it'll be up to council to determine whether they want to approve
Yes,
an
that's
increase in the rates or not. Do we need the rates? Yes, we do. But it's gonna fall on council to determine whether they say yes or no. That's what we were talking about the last time, not necessarily the budget part, but the rates.
so how do you handle that, Walter? you know, where it's like, this is what we need. It's not that we're trying to hurt Laredo, but this is your water, you know, and they're like, no, well, we don't wanna lose votes, you know, and, well, I don't wanna put for that, you know, but it's something like, but this is,
Well,
I was just saying, was that discussed before you leave, because, I mean, thank you for being here.
You always need money, but the people they're gonna get mad. Every year you waste the water on it. The thing is,
But we don't.
No,
oh,
no,
yeah.
but you have to also compare different cities with the same amount of people. We're very low on what we pay.
We start selling old vehicles and all that, and
Let me
see how
say-
much money you give back.
let me say this to you. I've never in my career had a problem getting sufficient revenues to run a utility that was operating. Okay? Now, I will tell you that everyone I was operating was moving towards more efficiency, so we were creating rate increases without having rate increases. Okay? I think you saw from the council presentations I've made in the 5 months I've been here, we found significant revenues and cost reductions, and that's a big part of managing a utility, not just asking for rates. Anyone can ask for rates. I think when you go to the council or the public and you're able to show how effectively you're operating their asset, that has a significant impact on saying yes or no. The other thing I will tell you is I've had, actually Sheila sitting here, but I had her do a little rate analysis of comparable cities. I've used that every other place I've been, okay? And you can demonstrate that your rates are, we were the lowest rates in the Metroplex. But that wasn't by coincidence. That was by a lot of things we did with efficiencies and stuff, which allowed us to invest capital, replace lines, replace valves, without it all being a burden on the ratepayer. Because that's our job. And so, in my experience, is all I can speak to, and I think it could be similar here, you can be able to submit a budget and a rate suggestion that I think will be palatable because of where our rates are and the work we're doing to mitigate any rate increases. That's the thing you have to do, and I think if you do a decent job with informing the public, which we need to do more of, I've told you that, and getting that message out, I think it'll help council be able to give us the resources we need to do our job. Because at some point, and everybody here knows it, this utility has been, I mean, we didn't have a cross-connection program, we had a boil order, catastrophic boil order, right? We don't have this, we don't have that, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. We have to do those things. And we have cash and we have money to do start our aggressive main replacement program. We bought the equipment to do our valve operating program. I should have had one of our robots here to show you because our robots have come in for our inspections. So we're moving to do that stuff. And all of those things are gonna create efficiencies for us, which should take some of the edge off rate increases. So I think all those things put together, I think should paint a pretty solid picture and give council the opportunity and the residents to say, we believe you should be spending this money. Because if some of the council meetings, some of the people that have come up to me afterwards and said, it's about time we're doing these things. So I think people get it, but they need to be communicated to.
And when they do select the next person who takes over the position, are you gonna sit down and have a talk with them? Is this what I work here with the team, or it's just the person comes in?
Next week is my last week. I told them I would be here 6 months, full-time, just running like and I've told them I would be happy to work on special projects. I'd be happy to do anything I can to support. I told the city manager, I will not leave you in the lurch, okay? I think we've developed a pretty good rapport now in the 5 or 6 months with the staff people. You know, we communicate. I'm 24/7. Somebody sends me a text at 2 in the morning, I answer it. So we don't have a gap with that kind of stuff. And I think we're starting to work together as a team. I'm very pleased by it, to be honest with you. So I don't see us falling off a cliff, I hope. And I'll certainly be happy to help the transition when the new director gets here.
So that's all coming. You've done all this work with the team, and then someone comes with another
Well,
mindset.
Well, it's nice of you to say that. It's frustrating for me because I actually have enjoyed my time here. And I think we're starting to do some of the things that I think good organizations do. I'll give you a quick example because it's just a small example, but it's important. We have now a cross-connection control program, and Sheila's running it, right? Well, you know what happens now? We get a call out for a high bill, and so we send inspectors out, and we're helping people with leaks, and they go, well, wait a minute, this hotel doesn't have a backflow preventer. So they call Sheila. That's how teams work together. We didn't do that before. They did this, they did that. We had, in my opinion, 10 departments inside the department. I want 10 teammates on the team, but one team.
Yep.
And so that's a culture thing. But it's very positive to me. I mean, that's the stuff I look for. Because we have good, we have people that want to be successful here. I want to give them a good environment and a good process to work in. So we've been working on that stuff. So to me, that's very encouraging.
Thank you.
That's the best way I can answer that. So anyways, this is something else I showed council. And then I think you also have in there, the whole question was adjustments. And the other thing that I'm starting to get into a little bit, as I've had a little bit of time here, is talking about customer service and adjustments. And you saw the numbers. This is what our ordinance says. And so the other thing that I'm trying to promote is to know the rules. I'm a stickler for that because I worked in environments that had union contracts most of my life. Not only that, I refereed high school and college basketball for 42 years, and I was a rules interpreter in 2 states. Well, I've told everybody this, I'll tell you this. Knowing the rules is never at your detriment, whether it's golf or basketball or whatever else. So we're talking a lot about, here's what our rules say, let's make sure we're following them, okay? And quite frankly, if our rules are outdated, we ought to be raising our hand and saying, this is inefficient, we ought to fix this stuff. So this I gave council, I just thought you should have it to peruse, but anyways, that's the stuff we're doing in customer service. So we're starting to begin to get into that area a little bit. The last thing I want to go over is this handout, which is the cross-connection handout. And again, Sheila did this, not Buzz. But it talks a little bit about the program, and as you know, at council on Monday, there was a lot of discussion about backflow preventers and the cost of inspection. And what I highlighted to council that I'll, of course, make clear to you folks is there are 2 classifications of situations that require a backflow preventer. Those are high health, which high hazard, high health, and non-health impacted. That doesn't mean that can't put something inappropriate in our system, but there's different gradations of that, so there's 2 of them. Lawn irrigation systems are in the non-health section, okay? And I'll go through the exhibit. I'm not talking through it right now. I'm going to give you a general description, and then of course, any commercial buildings, hospitals, mortuaries, cemeteries, hotels, etc., fall into the high health risk because there's things that could be going on there that could get in our system that could cause a health problem. So we're working on that. So the message I've given council is there's no question that home irrigation systems do need a backflow preventer, and that those backflow preventers need to be tested on an annual basis, and there's a fee associated with that. That's the law. Our focus right now, and by the way, I also said to council that when we had our event in October of 2024, we had TCQ and inspectors and all these people here. Well, they gave us a list of places that were visited, residential, commercial, the cemetery, all these places, right? Hydrants. So we just got our citation letter March 31st, which we knew was coming. And we've already addressed all the issues on the citation. So I'll be, within a week, be able to send them back the answer, which will be shocking, because that's not usually the way it works. But we got going on it right away because it was the right thing to do, okay? But the long and short of it is, our focus will be on the high health risk issues first. No one has unlimited resources, but we wanna make sure we're focusing on the highest risk first. So those will come down the line. Some of the residents actually got a notice about lawn irrigation because they were in that group that had to be addressed, right? So you guys may be experiencing out in the system, hey, I got one, but my neighbor didn't get one, and my neighbor down the street didn't get one, and they picking on me. No, you happen to be in that group, and we had to address that immediately, so that's why that happened. And I know that's caused a little bit of discomfort. So if you hear that comment, that's the situation. We'll eventually get to all of them, but we're gonna focus on the highest risk and the highest hazard to start. Okay?
Yeah, I heard that in the meeting.
All right, so this, again, talks, there's some information here for you, gives you some things that are going on. It's pretty straightforward stuff, but I thought it was a nice exhibit that I wanted to have in your hands. So if anybody asks you about things, remember, you're a resource to our council people, and you're out in the public, and so the more information we can give you that you can use to address issues, I think is the better. Long and short, we just want to keep our system from being infiltrated with things that shouldn't be in our system. And by the way, we're mandated to do that. And maybe I'll take one more second and kind of shape our responsibility as a utility. We are not responsible for testing devices. We are responsible for making sure they are tested. So we are and by the way, Sheila's group is sending out notices constantly because everybody's anniversary is a different day. If I put my backflow preventer in on my birthday, November 28th, next year, November 28th, I gotta have a test on file. That's my 1 year record. If you're December 5th, yours is December 5th, so we have this stuff going on constantly. Go ahead.
Sheila, and then when they first install the permit, are you getting also inspections from the backflows?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yes.
because when I was doing them with the fire department, no one ever asked for one. This was a while back, so I was just making sure that, because they always said 75% of the backflows always have issues, so you always have to test them before they.
What he's saying is, you put in a brand new backflow preventer tomorrow. You have to have it tested immediately to make sure it's working when they install it. Then that test is on file, and then 1 year from that date, there better be another one. And it's our job to make sure we have the testing results. Not to repair it, not to test it, we're kind of the custodian of that. That's our mandate.
Because the guys at the college were like, what do we do with all these papers? You're supposed to turn them in.
Well, that's right now, it's supposed to be now electronic.
Yeah, we
have all these inspections, they're like, what do we do with them? What do you mean? Kick them over to Sheila, deal with her.
That yearly testing will be the responsibility of the homeowner or the business owner, right?
Yes, sir.
So they'll hire essentially a third-party
Yes.
inspector,
Yep.
not, the city doesn't do it.
That's right. That's right. That's why I wanted to clarify,
Make
what's
sure we're
our
clear on
piece of
that.
the action?
Just to make sure they're doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so that will come up over time, but for right now, we're on the high hazard stuff. And by the way, we just, as I said, I gave you that example, we picked up 5 last week just by other inspections and other things. So it's a good thing, but to be honest, it's always gonna cause some discomfort. Sheila and I were on the phone with an individual for a couple days, and, it's just gonna take some, kindness and some listening and working with people, because it's gonna cost money. And as you guys can all imagine, if I own a business and I haven't had one for 20 years and suddenly I have to spend $10,000 or something, that's significant. But that's the way it's gotta work, so.
And what's the result if they don't do these tests? You're gonna shut down the water until they get it fixed?
Yes. Yeah, because we can't knowingly allow a situation that could be detrimental. It's like everything else. I always tell people, if I don't know it, that's one thing, but if I know it and don't do anything about it, that's a problem. So that's the box we're
And
in.
you're gonna get I can't afford that. I can't afford the fix.
With a $1,000 phone? Sure.
Yeah, exactly. And the Mercedes in the driveway. I can't enough for that.
So anyways, that's, again, here's some data for you, but that's really what I want to talk to you about, because these are kind of key issues that council's dealing with, and we're dealing with them. They're new, they're not new issues, but they're new to us. And so we're trying to do them as efficiently and as politely as we can, but get in compliance.
Thank you.
All right. I guess our next topic is open topics. Does anybody have anything they want to?
It was just the same thing that I asked last time, remember, about when it came to the district I'm with, and we have any streets that we're looking at on repairing there?
Yes. I gave a list. Did I give you guys the list? Okay, well, all the city councilmen at the meeting
Okay.
have a list of all the streets that are in that listing for us.
Oh, yes, you do, you gave us the plan, but we didn't know which streets.
Now they have the streets.
Okay.
And it's by district, so each of them can say what streets are theirs. I suggested that we actually, as a city, sit down, which is what I'm familiar with, and say, okay, we're planning on paving these streets. Which ones are we gonna replace water lines in? Because I don't wanna tear up a street that's just been paved or vice versa, right?
Yeah, if they're gonna repave it, they might as well replace the
Yeah,
line.
and then Encino and Totula, we did that.
Well, let's be clear, because I've been down that road too. Streets usually last about 35 years. Water lines usually last 70 to 100. So if you change out every water line for every street, you're gonna lose some of the life of the expectancy.
No, I'm saying if it needs to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, we wanna coordinate it.
Right.
And there's no sense repaving it, we can do it once.
Correct.
Is what I'm saying. Yeah, we're on the same page. But I actually got into that other situation. That's why we went to robotics, because then we could tell the exact condition of the line, and it proved out. So anyways, we're working with that, so we're working with the other departments doing that. The council members now have that, because they,
That's cool.
Councilman Garza have requested it too. And by the way, there's something in all the districts, because there's a lot of opportunity here. So, let me say something about that while we're going. As you know, we were gonna go out to bid for getting the program started. We now have the bids in. We have some bids for open cut, which is the standard way, and then we have some for pre-chlorinated pipe bursting. So we're gonna weigh those two options. We'll be taking a recommendation to council here in very short order. And then what we wanna do is, once we select the method, we just wanna start going. And I think we're gonna be doing 20 to 30,000 feet a year. And I anticipate this to be an annual program. This isn't a one-time, shoot the thing and then forget about it. And that's worked in other places I've been. And quite frankly, we should be able to cut our main breaks in half in 5 to 10 and 10 years.
Is there gonna be certain districts that are gonna be, like, putting full first before other districts, or is it gonna be across the board?
We took the top 69 mains for break frequency,
Okay.
and we're just gonna attack them.
No matter what district they're
No
in.
matter what
It doesn't
district.
matter what district.
I think we should do that. I think that's the
Yeah.
most it's the most efficient way to do it, because we wanna get the highest frequency. But there are lines in every district, so everybody's gonna get I think the minimum district has 4 or 5 lines.
What's like Gale Street, that street always has problems, so it's one of the,
That's
what
the
you got
one for
forbid, that it's, well, it needs to be done because there's always problems, also that's a big collector.
So I wanna take the edge off, if we're doing mine and not his or hers.
Yeah.
Let's just do the highest break frequency, that's the greatest value, main
That's a good
breaks.
barometer to use.
Okay, well, that's what we
That's fair,
select.
I think.
Yeah, that's what we select. Yeah. So that's how we're going about it, but we've got 3 we're gonna get started on, but, then I expect, we'll get into, there's 69 there, and I forget the total footage of the 69, but I can tell you the first program I did in another city was 40,000, and we just knocked off 40,000. And within 3 years, I think it's in my book, our main breaks went from 600 to 380. That's a lot of main breaks.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Well, it was 2 billion gallons in reduction in lost water.
Yeah, and then all the labor
And
and all.
that's just the water. It's not the chemicals,
Y'all
the
ain't
pumpage,
cheap,
the call-outs, the disruptions. So this can be, and then the valve program, quite frankly, see, when you put all these together, it gets exciting to me. Maybe that's because I'm a water guy, but, you know, you start fixing mains and valves operate, suddenly main breaks become this big, not this big. And outages become this big, not this big. Lost water goes from here to there, right? It just keeps going. And all those savings then create more money to spend on more investment. That's how I got it to go. And then you mitigate rate increases because you're creating rate reductions by your operations, which mitigate increasing rates. That's how it works. And it does work. I can tell you that because I've done it in real life. So that's what that's my vision for what can
I hope
happen.
your vision continues after you leave.
I think it should. So anyways, that's what I got. I hope I've been responsive to your questions. Anything else you guys have any feedback on?
How's the water, the aquifer? How's everything going there? The water we're getting from?
Well, let me give you the numbers. Our treatment facility capacity right now is about 93 MGD, 65 and 28. Our average day in 2024 was 34 MGD. Our maximum day in 24 was 44 MGD. So clearly we have plenty of treatment capacity. We are working right now on the second source thing. That's the other things I got going on. You know, they gave me 100 things to work on when I got here, and then of course we have a boil order too. So it's been an interesting time, but it keeps me busy, so that's good. And so anyways, we have memos of understanding with 2 entities about water provision, and then we have a contract. We've joined the Legacy Group, and we're working with them. So we've got 3 things we're working on.
Sorry, Amistad, that's us.
You're with Caliz, correct?
Yeah, I heard there was creases happening in Amistad.
But I'm also here.
If there was creases happening in Amistad with the water.
I live in the
Oh,
rainbow.
and you want the reservoir?
Yeah, and Amistad.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I said the right people.
Oh, okay.
They get this,
All right.
the gateway, the legacy, and the police thing, like, they, you know, that's why I was just kind of, when you said
Sorry,
legacy.
it was Amistad I was talking about.
Yeah, he was actually
Oh, yeah,
asking about the
Yeah, because I was
reservoir.
hearing that there was creases happening underneath where the water.
Oh, they're gonna do a major repair project on the dam, I think is what you're
That's
asking.
the reason I'm
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you
No,
were
but I said the
asking
wrong
about-
word.
Oh, okay.
But in my head I was like, wait, that's not right.
Well,
I
anyway,
I'm not
thought
in
you
San
were talking
Antonio.
about the reservoir, but.
No,
You're talking about the reservoir levels,
Amistad.
yeah,
status of the reservoir.
Yeah, because I was hearing some negative things. I was going out there. So.
yeah.
I was,
It's better to fix it now than it's.
No, I know that.
because I was asked, and I don't know how much you know about this, but is there a project going on Potomac?
Potomac,
That part.
that's on our list.
Okay, so it's not even started.
No. But that's one of the listing of the streets we're gonna replace.
Okay,
I can
because
tell you.
I was like, when are they getting?
It's Potomac, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I thought it was Potomac.
Well, again, somebody called it Potomac, and, you know what's funny?
It's kind of like
Yeah, well, I would've called it Potomac, but, you know, when I'm in New York, they call it Houston, and when I'm in Texas, they call it Houston. So I thought that was the local pronunciation.
Well, just tell them like there's a agenda comes out when projects start. If they read it.
By the way, my hope is, and I've told this to other people, once we start the main replacements, I wanna do a public barometer. And as
Sure.
we fill them in, we're gonna keep clicking them off, because I think this is a high priority. I think it's important. Again, you wanna ask how you justify rate increases or whatever. You show you're doing things that they want with the money. And I want it to be public, and I want it to be visible, okay? I think that's a plus for
Yeah,
everybody.
then that's what you're doing now, checking all the backflow cells is gonna help reduce the waste of water.
Yeah, all that stuff comes together. Valve programs and new meters and water main replacements and all.
Like we need a boat, should have a little backflow, little thing walking around. I'm the
A little
backflow.
Another one.
By the way, did any of you notice the float we had in the parade?
Get flushed.
Oh.
No, I don't go to parades.
Oh, you didn't go to the
The
parade?
parade was too cold and wet.
I know.
It wasn't a good day to be at the parade.
It was a bad
This is the
year.
first year I didn't have to be in the parade in 20 years with my kids.
You lucked out.
And I got lucky.
DIY'd it.
I was a Boy Scout in March.
Yeah.
I was like 35, freezing.
Yeah, it was a
You're on the floor too.
Put that in
Oh, you had a-
at the.
you had a-
Rick had it advertised.
Yeah, I guess, I'll take a minute before we're done. Appreciate the hospitality. I'm a member of the public. I'm not on the committee. But I do, care about Laredo infrastructure, Laredo succeeding, the region succeeding. I do work for a developer, irregardless. I support Laredo. I have pretty good connections locally with public officials, the private sector, and I'll continue to advocate for everything we need in the water utilities department.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we need to push this whenever they come on social media, all the councilmen need to share. That's one thing, if something the HERD page does, that's what needs to be done. On social media, says they all ran on water being their number one thing.
I also wanted to thank you, Walt, Buzz, for your 6 months here. It's flown by. You've been one of the best things that's happened to Laredo in a long, long time.
Just stay
And I say the same thing about City Manager Joseph Neb. It goes to show, having some outsiders come in is not always a bad thing. Me personally, I got here 32 years ago, as fast as I could, but Laredo's my home. But I wanted to thank you again.
Thank you.
You done
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
You did a
again,
great job.
same sentiment. You've done well. We appreciate all your insight and your professionalism and everything. So if we don't get to visit again before you leave, thank you for everything.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Well, I appreciate you coming and taking the time to do this too, because it's important. And it's good exercise for us to talk about these things. And anything you need to support things you hear and stuff, you become, to me, our eyes and ears out in the public.
Potomac.
Potomac. They pronounce it that way, and I wanted to be Laredoized. So I thought I was being in.
Did I find out when they're gonna finish Potomac? I said,
What's this street anyway?
It's Potomac, I guess.
Potomac.
Yeah.
Well, I-
Potomac.
Well, I was discussing the other streets around.
Washington.
Like every neighborhood, there's a reason for the names, so you gotta see the other name and see why is that name.
Well, we got all the presidents' names on a lot of streets.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. We have, like in Lomas, we have all like officers, policemen, firemen that passed away, that's why Danny has all that. So there, you just got to look at the other street, oh, this is connected for a reason. All the neighborhoods have, the reason the names are, there's a reason.
I built that.
But the downtown supposedly had, a Mexican president or general and an American president or general. And then
They alternate.
That's the logic.
Then the going, north-south,
Okay.
north-south streets.
All right.
Because
Because there's Washington and Houston.
Yeah, you have Grant.
Houston.
and
Oh,
then-
yeah, all the way, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, every neighborhood has a reason. You know, like
Yes.
soccer,
Zaragoza.
the soccer one over here by Casanova,
Bryant.
they're all soccer players.
Iturbide.
Is there
And
one
then-
there?
Go.
The Basuanis, they did that neighborhood there, it's all soccer players.
Interesting, yeah, it is. It's
I learned that when I was doing the downtown sidewalk project.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's
So wait for Big Blue Street, okay.
Well, history is important too. You know, it's
Yeah,
important to
absolutely.
preserve that stuff.
But I was gonna do one for my house, I was like, no.
So Danny developed the Lomas del Sur, right?
From phase 3 on, we ended up at phase 21.
So I did, I guess, maybe the first phase
Yeah.
when DR Horton was there, so I did all those right there.
All the houses that broke.
Yep.
I'm not home builder.
Not nice.
So DR did some building here?
Did a lot of building.
Yeah, we're in green.
Building.
I started Green Ranch.
Yeah, Green Ranch.
I did,
Johnny
Yes.
Johnny was there too.
Yeah. And then I did Lomas del Sur.
Phase 1 and phase 2.
Yeah. Did all that. And then the housing market went.
Like
No.
it does sometimes.
What year was that? That was in 80 something.
2008, 2009.
Oh,
2005.
2005, 2006.
No, 2000 is when they built green, I took it home to the Laredo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Orange Blossom and all that from,
The rural building
International,
houses.
Yeah,
That's
80,000.
70,000. Now it's the same house, 220,000. Same house.
Oh, yeah. You're 90,000, and we're, you know, clearly.
There's one question.
If there's any more business, we'll conduct it, and then we can have a general
Gotta
discussion.
come out on TV.
I asked Blanca,
It was
45 days, you know that, right?
start to finish.
Is there any way that we can ask the federal government to
I came out of
to
the
help us
social media.
for a grant for our water lines in the future?
That was the 20 million.
Yeah, I know, but that 20 million
Well,
go fast.
I mean, at some point,
It's heavy, I
And it
mean,
was even the
but
correct.
other than that, after that, could we ask the federal
I'm
government?
sure we'll apply for all the monies we can get.
With all the city managers, like I was saying, Blancas and, Novelina, Villarreal,
During the meeting,
Townsman and all that.
second,
Wait, we got one.
Okay, we're still.
They never did, you know, we needed that money for water lines, they never did pay any attention to it, you know.
Okay, well,
I never got involved this, until right now when I run for city council.
his question was, should we apply for more money for grants?
Yeah.
Grant, it means free, but nothing's free, but
Well, nothing's free, I know
it's
it.
tax money coming back. But we'll apply for everything we can get, we've got good cooperation.
Yeah, I saw that, it's great.
But some of it will be low interest loans, but I would think we will aggressively pursue every dollar we can get.
But then what they're doing to fix all the lines gonna help reduce, hopefully keep the rates where they're at or reduce. That's the part that we're spending a lot of labor to fix things.
Yeah,
That's-
And overtime and
the Army.
disruption of service and those kind of things.
because what they
Is there
do.
any other topics before the group? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Well, do you want the topics for next month's meeting? Well, I'm not sure if we're gonna have one to.
Well, no, we'll just see what,
Yeah, just let it play out, and we'll see,
motion to adjourn.
we'll see how it's gonna play out.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
All in
Second that
favor?
motion.
Aye. Thank you.